Basically, we're both, the biggest similarity, I think, is we're both composing through colour. We literally think about the colour we're going to use. We normally use primary, secondary colour. We think about the tonality of the colour, and we think about the space that we're going to create with the colour. And the whole composition, the whole image is created through colour.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily created through abstraction or figuration. I mean, I sit down for maybe, on this nice comfy IKEA chair, I will sit down for maybe half an hour just looking, and then painting for about 20 minutes, and then sitting down again.
Yeah.
These ones there all are a product of Storm Arwen from Bodnant. So
Okay,
I
yeah.
then, after going round Bodnant after the storm, I saw all these woods. So I approached them and talked about our project and said, could I have some slices of wood? So I can then paint something about the story of the tree.
Yeah.
It's in a funny way, it's like the reincarnation of the tree.
But this one is really interesting because this is quite early stage, I think.
Yes.
That's how they kind of start your one. And how much?
Yeah, I mean, that's basically from the same piece of wood as that. That's had 2 sessions. That's had 1 session.
Oh, that's interesting. Just 2 sessions. Gosh, you
2 or maybe 3 sessions. No, when I mean sessions, layering. That's the second layer.
Yeah.
Basically, I get it sanded, get it chopped up, get it sanded, and then I put clear acrylic gesso, two coats, sometimes 3 coats.
Right.
Sometimes I put a woodworm killer on, but not always.
Who sliced these up for you, John? Because these are very thin. This is just to show you. I'll just hold on to that.
James Carpenter. Or start off by doing the leaf. See, if you see this one here.
Yeah. Oh, so the leaf leads the way.
The leaf leads the way.
That's interesting. I like them like this, where you can see all the bits.
It's tempting to leave them as they are, but I'm not going to do that. The problem I'm having is that sometimes I'll put a yellow on or I'll put orange on.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen with violets, and it doesn't sink the translucent qualities, even the opaque qualities, doesn't completely cover the wood, and it affects the colour. So what I've started doing now is getting a bit of white acrylic and putting the white acrylic down and then painting a colour on top, where I've underpainted white there, white there, white there, and white there. I've got a tendency to go towards some kind of figuration, or particularly in this one, a form of symbolism.
Yeah.
But, relating these colours in the golds to the colours around here and this sort of rather mystical landscape. But again, this was to a certain extent, a lot of this has been influenced by, artists such as Cézanne, Rothko, Pollock, but also more recently, looking at iconography and icon paintings. I've had this piece of wood for about 7-8 years, and I never knew what to do with it. And suddenly, after seeing the icons in Greece, I came up with this idea of this shape here. So I used different types of gold and silver here. This is white gold, moon gold, yellow gold, and red gold, all combined together, and copper at the bottom.
Copper, that's the one down here. Lovely.
Yeah.
It's it is a rich kind of very iridescent surface, isn't it? It's got that kind of strong reflection.
Yes.
Very, not much depth to it. Like all the ones on the shelf here that we're looking at, they're not. I don't know whether you've thought about how you would exhibit them, whether they would be on the, on the wood block stands that you've got, that I've seen the other ones downstairs, or how have you, or don't you think about it until you finish them?
I don't honestly think about it until I finish them. I mean, but basically what I'm thinking of possibly doing, for instance, this one, I'm going to put on the block
because it's got two halves to it.
Yeah, and this is just a piece of wood which dried too quickly. So rather than just throw it away, I just worked with what I'd got, what nature gave me.
Yeah, which is inherent in the work. In other words, the original wood and support is inherent in the final painting because you haven't changed it at all, and it's it's part of it. But I think in some ways, in that way, I think you're quite a realist. In the tradition of like Courbet and Manet.
I'd say possibly more Fleming. I mean, one of my favourite artists is Rothko.
Right.
And, I remember when I was doing my foundation course, after we had a trip to London, there was a Rothko exhibition, Turner exhibition, and we had to write something, and I wrote about the similarities between Turner and Rothko.
Yeah. Sure. And what about Cézanne?
Cézanne, yes. Very. I relate very, very strongly to Rothko. I always have done.
Yeah.
I relate to Pollock as well for some reason, but I see realist elements within Pollock.
It's kind of realist in a lot of ways.
It's realist, but it's also abstract.
Yeah.
There's an abstract element because, I actually went out and did a bit of drawing on that, but most of them, I just literally start painting, and what comes out, comes out. I'm dictated totally by the shape of the wood and the markings I see within the wood.
Sure. So, yes, exactly. I can see that. I mean, a case in point is the tree, if I can call it that, which is totally delineated by the shape of the wood, isn't it?
Yes.
The tree form does fit round.
Yes. And
that piece of wood.
But if you look at the other side, this was done recently, last year, latter part of last year, and that was done about 3 years ago. So I'm going to actually repaint this, or repaint parts of that. I was thinking I just didn't like it. I was using the grain too much in this. Now I've stopped using the grain altogether, so I'll just literally draw back into that and get the. But see, that is abstract. This is more or less abstract. But
there's very
but realist elements are creeping into it.
Yeah.
And so where do you separate abstraction? Where do you separate realism?
Yeah, the figurative elements or the realist. I think we use the word realist elements come through. You said through the making.
Come through from
because you start off just with colours.
I start off purely with colour.
In the same, I start the same. It's the same. We have a similar start point, and we're finding these connections in process. But your final paintings, are different.
Yes.
Figuration that develops through the use of colour. So you sort of come in a way. You come sort of full circle.
Not knowing, you start not knowing, and then something evolves.
Yeah,
you stick to the more to the abstraction. I will allow, say some of mine will go abstract.
Yeah,
and some of them will go more figurative or with realist elements within the abstraction.
I mean, colour is mesmerising, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the colour.
It does drive you on.
I mean, if you think about, how this is actually working here, building up the orange, building up the one yellow, then another yellow, then a little bit of light, doing this area here, relating the gold. I mean, for instance, in this one here, that's a mosaic of silver and gold. That of gold, just gold and copper. In some ways, I preferred it before I put the paint on it.
Yeah, what I like about is the volume of colour that you get against another one, The oranges, for example, the orange is balanced with the violets.
This one, I'm going to base something on the other one was based on Cadnant, Coed Cadnant, the Hidden Gardens.
Yeah.
And the trees growing, autumn and spring either side. This one is going to be based on what you see up there.
Okay.
Clundwyn. Well, there's Clundwyn. And like this. So I'm going to bring elements of this in. So I'm going to start to bring this. See, from that is going to be quite abstract, but it will have some kind of figurative element in it that gives some form of representation of the story. Because a lot of this is, I think, is about the story of the wood and the story of the tree. I'm using the markings and the shapes. So you've got spalting, you've got cracks, you've got stresses, all sorts of different things. And if you think about a tree grows in all sorts of particular ways, depending on the soil conditions, the weather conditions, the light conditions. I mean, look at that piece of olive wood proposed to that piece of sort of semi-hardwood from Botnant. They're completely different.
You are using the natural form, the inherent natural form, and taking that right through to the end. The paintings would be totally different without the support, without the wood.
When I was in your studio on Friday, I saw a lot of this going on. I saw a lot of this going on. I saw a lot of that going on.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
And I saw very, very quite similar colours, which is interesting. Even in this one, which was started from this Clanwen, I think in terms of colour and how colour actually works.
That you're using this turquoise blue that I've picked up on, as an optical, to bounce against the oranges. I mean, that's a very literal comparison. But I think we are both working with fully saturated colour. I mean, that's the start point, isn't it? And there's nothing in some ways. There's nothing else to say about it. It's lovely. It's so good to be talking about colour, and we've had a great discussion just in the past, 20 minutes.
Basically, we're both the biggest similarity I think is we're both composing through colour. Then another yellow, then a little bit of light, doing this area here, relating